Hello and welcome back to the Learn with Purpose, the podcast from Titus Learning for UK L&D professionals who want real stories, practical learning and fresh perspectives from people shaping the industry. I'm Ellie Sharkey, the host, and on this episode I'm joined by Aaron. Now, it's fair warning that this is one of those conversations that is less straight line career and more career pinball machine, but in the very best way. We talk about the moments that shaped Aaron's career, the pivots, the stretch roles, the setbacks, the mentors that he's had along the way. And if you've ever felt that you've fallen into L&D rather than followed a perfectly mapped plan, I think this one will really resonate. Aaron currently leads learning and development at Frive, supporting a fast-scaling operation with thousands of staff and big growth targets. So, alongside the personal journey, we also get into the reality of building learning in a high-growth environment where time is money and business is moving quickly. He's a great talker, a great guest, and I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Right, let's get into it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. It's nice and warm. It's a beautiful that you've got here in this room. So my role is I'm responsible for the learning and development for Frive, which very subtly is here on my top.
Love it, yeah.
And Frive is a fully balanced, fully nutritional meal prep company. I'm not going to mention our competitors because I think my CEO might get quite upset if I did that. But it's basically an alternative to takeaways, and it's macronutrients, and it's really, really good for you. And that's all the meals I generally eat. So.
And tasty, chef made.
Delicious,
yeah,
absolutely delicious. They're ultra processed food free. They are 100% natural. There's no processed sugars, no refined sugars, and it's 30% is what's the word? Do you mind if I just quickly?
No, go for it. Recyclable? No.
Organic.
Organic.
30% organic. Yes.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I'm not an organic person myself, but yeah, 30% organic. I'm going to increase that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool company. So I want to hear more about Frive later. And also, a little side note, when I've been doing my research and I was thinking if they could produce this for kids, and it's something that kids will actually eat, so you'd have to hide all the good stuff, like the healthy stuff. I think that's a whole new market because I just really struggle. And it genuinely weighs on like parent guilt, when you're just giving them crappy stuff. But if I cook from scratch and they don't eat it, it's like, oh, so yeah, something like that.
Have you tried the meals?
I haven't.
Okay, well, we'll have to get you to try the meals.
Yeah.
The portions are massive, so they're actually easy enough to maybe share.
Yeah.
But that I might take that as a nice business concept and get myself a little bonus and a promotion.
Yeah, I think parents would be all over it, definitely.
Yeah, the food is delicious.
Yeah.
They do really delicious.
Cool.
Stays healthy.
So, you're at Frive now.
Yeah.
But if we take a decade or so back, another cool thing that we have, and another first actually, is that people can probably hear from our tones that we're both Yorkshire people. So we're based in Saltaire, which for people who haven't been, World Heritage Site, absolutely amazing. Beauty little place. But you're local, aren't you? You're a local lad.
Yes, I grew up, I was born in Keighley, and I can hear all the locals shuddering. Keighley's not too bad.
What, like 10, 20 minutes from here?
Yeah, so it's 20 minutes down the road, a couple of stops on the train. But we grew up in East Morton, which is literally just up the road from here. Yeah. So I know this area very, very well. I remember when they used to film Airedale down here at Sheffield, and when I used to work in Cross Flats, which is literally down the bottom of the road here at the Dales Way. I used to dress up in a bear suit and dance to the YMCA in a kids' play area.
Oh, nice.
And when we had our training, we had to go to, I don't know if it's still here, maybe you'll know a place called the Noble Combe, which is just there where people are training.
Yeah.
I was trained how to plate spin and blue model and juggle. So when I go to really boring parties now, with people over 40, I take balloon models with me and try to make it a bit more.
Oh, you're that guy that gets the balloon models.
Adult parties,
At least you've got the party trick. When people say, what's your party trick?
Yeah. And then I decided to move to London, and I arrived in London My dad dropped me off at the megabus in Bradford, which is £1 to get to London.
Yeah.
I went to London on the megabus.
That's such a, like, I'm going to the big city on my £1.
And how cliche. How cliche.
Yorkshire lad from Keighley.
Yeah. So I stayed with my friend from university for 2 weeks, and then that just didn't work out. So I found somewhere else for myself to live. I was trying to find a job for quite a few weeks, and I couldn't find one. And the last minute, I found a job, just temping in a Air Forces and Services charity. And Paul O'Grady used to live next door to where we were working on Towerbridge.
Did you ever see him?
Yeah, he used to walk his dogs all the time.
Oh, wow.
Really nice. He was a really nice guy. Really nice. But my job literally was, because there was always some kind of formal event, so I was always up and down the flagpole, putting the thing up for the Queen, putting it down for the Queen, putting it over the Queen, putting it down for the Queen. And while all that was happening, I was then interviewing for a job at PPL, and PPL is a music licensing company. So if you listen to music in offices, or you listen to music on the radio, you have to pay a license and all that. So my job was to ring up offices like yours and say you don't have a license, which I'm assuming you do if you play music, and say you've not paid a bill. Here's here's the bill for previous years and a couple of years ahead. Whilst I was doing that, I was the person that everybody would be sat with buddying. So while I was at the South East Community Radio, I got it was called a PETALS then, which was a Preparing to Teach in the Lifelong Learning Sector. It's now called an Award in Adult Education Level 3, which is a qualification of teaching in colleges and in offices. And they said to me, the trainer's, he's gone on paternity leave, we're going for a full year. Would you like to step into his role for a year? Absolutely. So then it was my responsibility to find a new learning management system, build a development program, do all the inductions, do all the development, all the technical stuff. So that's when I had one of your competitors come in and pitch for Tutter as well. And
where are you at this point?
This is PPL, this is London. This is like 2 or 3 months after I moved to London. So this is 2011. And then off the back of that, Gareth, really nice guy, he didn't come back. So I was then the L&D specialist there.
Yeah.
So I worked there for 4 years. And then unfortunately they started a redundancy program where they wanted to merge 2 roles into one. So I took the redundancy. And then from there I moved to, so all of my experience is very left field, by the way. So I then moved from licensing in music to the pharmacy regulator in Canary Wharf.
Sure, yeah.
So, I worked for the General Pharmaceutical Council, who license all pharmacies. So my job was to come to the big pharmacy schools when they do the exams at the end of the year and get people to invigilate the exam, make sure nobody's cheating in that exam. And ironically, one of them is Bradford, but the University of Bradford is one of the biggest pharmacy schools. So we go to the Abundant Life Church in Bradford, although the Abundant Life Centre, I think it's called now, and go to Edinburgh and a few other places. Again, build a management leadership program. You know, that was a really interesting role, really interesting job. But wasn't quite. I could have stayed there for a very long time and not tried hard. And I get bored easily when I'm not being challenged. So while I was there, I'd interviewed a few years previously for the Santander Cycles, which is Boris Bikes, is known as, in London. And the person who interviewed me phoned me and said, I'm leaving. I found your CV in my drawer. I think you would be good at the manager job, not the coordinator job. So I'd like you to come and interview for it. So I interviewed at Boris Bikes, went there. And that was amazing job. Absolutely amazing. Got free on the bikes, made some really, really good lifelong friends there. One of my colleagues actually is the person who built the Leeds LNER bike scheme for Beryl. He works for Beryl. He's a really, really close friend. I set up an L&D network there because that scheme was run by Serco, which is an outsourced company. So they run the Caledonian Sleeper, prisons. You've probably seen the prison vans there. Yeah. But they run all sorts of
huge,
stuff.
are they?
Yeah, they're massive. So we had all of these trainers in all of the different contracts, and I was like, why would we be paying for external training when we could just create this network and we had like an annual thing, which was really good. Really enjoyed that. And then we were signing a new contract with Transport for London. And while we were signing that new contract, unfortunately, some of the roles that we had were moving to a new supplier. So we had to go through a redundancy program. And as we were going through this redundancy program, I was doing CV workshops. So I put my CV on Indeed, and showed people how to do it. I set their LinkedIn profiles, all that good stuff. And then I got a message on Indeed from Ocado saying, we've seen your CV, we'd really like to interview you. And I ignored it because it was in a place called Erith, which I thought sounded like it was in Scotland.
Yeah, I would think
sound like
that.
it's in London.
Erith. Oh, it is in London.
It's in London, yeah. So it's just it's near the Dartford crossing, in southeast London. And I ignored them and they kept.
And had you heard, is this at a point where Ocado is well known, or was this when they were like very early on?
So this was just as they were about to get massive. So I'd, like everybody else, I thought they were part of Waitrose.
Yeah.
And they were. And if you say that to anybody in Ocado, they get very upset. But what they were doing is they were opening an automated robotics warehouse in southeast London that was 5,000 robots, 3,000 members of staff. It was amazing, amazing. The inside of it was the size of Wembley Stadium. It was huge inside. So they had me, successful, got the job, all that good stuff, and did go for the interview. Went in and immediately had to create some training for how to be trainers, get ready for this hyper-growth period. So this was what they call their Customer Fulfillment Centre. So this was CFC4. At the time, they had no automation in their platform. It was all belts that run around the platform. So they had Hatfield, and they had Andover, and they had Dordon. And in Erith was the robotics side. So this is where it's all going to happen. And I started there, and that was like a whirlwind. We were inducting 360 people a week. I had a team of 60 people who were underneath me. Like I'd gone from one diary report, the bag scheme, to suddenly 60 diary reports, and it tested me to the level where it was a real stretch opportunity there.
And is it, from everything you've just said there, from going, there was a trajectory for a good while where it was the kind of media, radio production side. So two things that have come out for me. One, you are clearly someone that leaves an impression, because it sounds like a lot of your career opportunities is someone who's met you at some point. You've left an impression, and then that's kind of opened the door to them coming back. And then the second thing is, it seems like you kind of fell into it, and everyone that we interviewed, this seems to be the case. No one is doing a degree, or maybe they do now, but no one at the time was doing a degree to be a career learning and development head of, but they've fallen into it and find a love for it, and then it kind of expands from there.
I think that's a really, really perfect analysis, actually. I think everybody I know has fallen into training, but fallen into training by somebody more senior, seeing that they're really good at it and them not noticing it themselves. I think I have had a lot of people in my career who've come in on L&D qualifications. So lots of people are doing CIPD level 3, level 5 in training, and the TAP qualifications and all that good stuff. And that's great, but I see training as a more of a vocational qualification, like video editing, like radio, like music, all these things that are practical and are better vocational. So you're better figuring out how to do it first and then doing the theory.
Reapplying it,
So I do find sometimes those people who have come very theoretical from somewhere else, that might work in bigger corporate businesses where they've got a structured ID function. But in the environments that I've been in, it's kind of been, you have to do it.
Yeah, think on your feet, figure it as we go, kind of.
And there's no budget. Good luck. So that's kind of been my whole ethos, has been, how can I do this to get the maximum impact with the minimum amount of spend? And I suppose that's from a very commercial, I've run my own businesses and stuff like that. So while all this was happening, Ocado signed deals all over the world. So we went from one automated 4 sites in the UK to they sold, they do all if you order from Morrisons.com, it comes from an Ocado site. So it's the same thing. If you order from Group Casino in France, Bonpreu in Barcelona, Kroger in America, Sobeys in Australia, every kind of major supermarket in the world now has and Ocado.
And is that because their infrastructure, they were early to it, and therefore they had been set up in a way which facilitated it, as opposed to someone like Morrison's, where they were very much kind of bricks and mortar, and they didn't have that digital infrastructure, I guess. It was easier to piggyback onto Ocado, who had like nailed it out at the gates.
Yeah, so Ocado was the only online supermarket at that time. So that's why they had this agreement with Waitrose. But this is why all of these businesses went. So you either had one or two options, right? You go with Amazon or you go with Ocado. And I think at that point, you were given more freedom with Ocado than possibly were with Amazon. I don't know. I know it way above my pay scale at those decisions. But they didn't have any materials to train with. They didn't have, so they'd gone from 4 in the UK to suddenly they were going to have hundreds worldwide. And they needed to build a training structure for that. So the new head of learning and development for the North America office came to the UK. We had this wonderful conversation, and he was just like, I'm just thinking about what he said before. And he said, you wasted, I'd like to take you somewhere else because I'd like to give you an opportunity that I think you're going to be really good at. So actually thinking about that, maybe my career has been a bit more, less.
There's it, and I think so. When you're in it, you don't realize these things, but from you just talking that through, that definitely seems to be there's someone that's recognized it, and then it's moved you into the next thing.
It's fascinating. I'd not thought about it that way. Maybe I need to use my therapist. So I was offered a job in the American office, and instead of moving me to the US, they actually decided to not have the learning and development function there and have me head it up in the UK globally. I think because it was a lot cheaper as well. If you pay American salaries, it's not much.
Would you have been up for moving to the US if it come to it?
Yeah. I mean, I'd already accepted the job, but they decided at the last minute that wasn't going to happen. And then I met my first proper mentor at Mix, who is now the director of engineering at Gusto. He was the director of engineering there, and he gave me 6 months of comment and said, I want you to build my training package for these international sites. We're going to grow. We need standard operating procedures. We need training. It was there, but it needed just trainingified, as it were, and throwing a bit more structure to it. So I was in there for 6 months. Then COVID hit. And then they signed loads more deals and they weren't going to slow down. So they made my role permanent, then gave me a team. And then we were then responsible for training all of the engineering teams worldwide, multilingual. And then a couple of years after that, I was then given the opportunity to apply for the international lead on learning and development training, which was a really interesting role because it was, what DI here looks like, DNI Canada, and it looks different all over the world.
Completely different.
Yeah. And everybody has, there are different things that you are and are not allowed to do in different parts of the world. After 4 years of working at Ocado, that job I was like, this is probably my last opportunity here. And then I got a phone call from Gusto saying, we are about to grow quite exponentially. We'd like to interview you for this opportunity. And then I was there for about a year and a half. Unfortunately, they were going through a bit of a difficult period at that time.
Were they, at that time, was that concept relatively new?
It was not, I suppose in people's consciousness it was new.
Yeah.
But I mean, Timo, who's the founder of Gusto and one of the loveliest people I think I've ever met, he was on Dragon's Den and they wouldn't buy the product. But then one of the dragons, I believe, became a customer.
Okay.
And it kind of built off the back of that. But they got so much money off SoftBank to grow this product because it was selling like 40% each every year. But then you obviously had HelloFresh that more people know about. And Gusto is a really interesting alternative to that. I mean, I'm biased, but I do really like the Gusto ones. And then I was there for about a year and a half, and unfortunately the sales didn't grow where they kind of expected it to. So a few of my colleagues left the business, and I was then left with the responsibility of all the training, management, leadership development, manufacturing practice, all this stuff. And then I was I was phoned about a head of learning and development role. So at this point, it's all management roles.
Yeah.
That I was like, okay, this is the title I've wanted for a while. I feel like I'm ready to get to that point. Started in the new role, which was food manufacturers, and that didn't work out. And they decided they weren't going to turn that into a head of role. So then moved to a digital concert. I'm not sure with all my ideas I can mention what it's called. You can look on my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But it's a very large concert in Stratford by 4 very famous people from Sweden who were in Eurovision and won it.
Okay.
So I worked there for a while.
Yeah.
So each one of these jobs...
And that's still, you working there still very much in an L&D capacity?
L&D capacity, yeah. So that was coming in, doing skills program, implementing a learning management system, management leadership development. So all of these roles, kind of the 3 main facets have been bringing some kind of strategy for L&D, commercializing the budget a bit more, and putting in systems and processes like management leadership training, learning management system.
Yeah.
I decided after those 2 experiences that I would take a bit of a career break. So I took 2 months off at the end of last year, whilst interviewing for jobs, but I felt like I'd been on this kind of hamster wheel, not actually stopped for 15 years.
Yeah.
So,
and was that a bit of burnout, or was it a bit of actually I want to take a breath and just reassess that this is what I want to do?
It was both, I think.
Okay.
It was both. So I went to Athens on my own for a week and a bit, and walked up and down hills on islands for a couple of weeks.
Did you feel like you were in a film, just like wandering around?
I mean,
soul searching.
Nobody was chatting me up. I didn't find some wonderful Greek lover, but I ate all the food.
You had your leading man moment of. I only say because I went to South America on my own, and I just feel like, especially traveling on your own, you just feel a little different and a little like it's like a brave thing to do. Yeah,
I'm going again to Athens in 2 weeks for a week.
Yeah,
on my own. I travel a lot. And I travel on my own, which is why I live next to Heathrow, I think.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
So you've had your 2 months out?
I had my 2 months out, and then I was offered 2 jobs. So last year was a really difficult time in the economy.
Yeah.
That every time I thought I'd got a job, they would say I didn't get it. And I clearly got to the final stage, and I was like, I'm clearly doing something wrong here that I really need to consider. Just get with the mic. That I need to consider, because maybe I'm giving off some kind of vibe that I perhaps need to reconsider what I'm doing, as it were. So I was then offered 2 jobs. I was offered Frive, and I was offered MacArthur Glen outlets. So I got offered both jobs, and it was a case of, right, am I going to fall into the same habits? Am I going to fall into the same challenges that I've had with the last few jobs, or which one is going to give me the opportunity to have the freedom to do the role that I know I could do? So they both offered, and I took Frive over MacArthur Glen, not for any other reason other than in MacArthur Glen I would have had a set of people above me who had worked together for a very long time, lovely people, but needed to go through this digital transformation period. And that would have been, at that moment in time, not sure I was in a place where I could have those really challenging conversations with people and try and bring people along. Whereas
had you, the whole digital transformation piece, is that something that you had done a lot of alongside all the leadership stuff, or was that still quite a new element to you at that point?
No, I'd done that I'd done that in the pharmacy regulator, I'd done that in Serco, at Boris Bikes, I'd done that in Ocado, because in Ocado, the wonderful thing is we create this AR, VR training package for engineers internationally, where they could put on a headset, look at the robot, it'd span out, it would explode, and they could see the different parts. They'd take through an SOP. And
did learners like that? They adopted it pretty well? Yeah.
Yeah.
Expensive to implement?
A fortune.
Yeah.
A small fortune. And we got this wonderful partner in Ireland, and actually the guy who was our account manager ended up being the head of L&D at Ocado after I left. Great guy, Alex. So I took the job that I knew I could go in and make a really big impact, and it would be my thing.
Yeah.
So when I arrived in Frive, they were just hitting this massive growth spurt 12 months ago. And until that point, I think learning had been something that we need to do. So let's kind of do it. They were doing the training and it was being rolled out.
Yeah.
But I don't think they had somebody with that strategic, right, what do we actually need to do to get everyone to each different level and make sure that when we triple our growth next year, we are ready for it. We're not reacting. We're being very proactive in this approach. So first thing was acquiring a new learning management system, which is, I had about 30 or 40 people pitch.
Yeah.
And your skinned version of Totoro was actually the best we've got.
Shout out to Mary.
Mary, she is an absolute benefit to your company. She is a superstar.
And we were saying before we started filming, obviously, the merit speaks for itself in the platform and the company, but also you can't help but the fact that you grew up 10 minutes from where we are. You've got Irish family and Mary's based in Derry. Like it all kind of aligned and came together pretty nicely.
Yes, it was kind of like fate. So when I jumped on that first call and I was like, tell me about Titus. And I'm like, well, we're in this place called Saltaire. I was like, are you in the Seds Mill? And they were like, oh, no way. I was like, yeah, I grew up there.
Yeah.
And then the next call, Mary jumped on and I was like, where are you from in Derry? And she was like, I'm from this part. So I'm dad from that part. So it was meant to be, is the way I saw that. And thankfully the whole product and everything and the support that we've had from all of your team, there are too many people who I've pestered and moaned at and complained at and sorted out. But, you have a great team here who are really get stuff done really quickly. But to go back to my point about Frive is, they just changed the name. It used to be called the Lions Prep before. Okay. So you might have heard of the Lions Prep.
What was...
So Lions Prep was, I think the way that they'd marketed themselves previously was it was for Olympians and athletes and really healthy, fit people.
Yeah.
Whereas Frive was a really clever change on that to bring more people in to buy the...
To go for more mass market, not as quite so niche. Yeah. So so for people that don't know what Frive is, who was the founding people behind it? What was the original kind of intention? And then obviously you spoke earlier on about what the end result is, which are these really healthy, well-balanced chef meals. But what was that kind of founding journey and starting point?
So George Taylor, who's the founder and the CEO of the business, he set it up. He was a plumber, and he got into health and fitness, went to Ibiza for this kind of retreat, came back with an epiphany, and the epiphany was he was talking to his friends in his living room one day, and they said about meal prep, and he was saying, well, why did we set the meal prep business? So him and his wonderful mum Karen set up his business in their flat, and George was doing all the cooking all night, and then when he'd fall down exhausted, his mum would then deliver all and package it all and send it all out.
And are they like trained chefs at this point, or is it literally mum and son making healthy food?
Making healthy food, setting up this business, trying, iterating, making sure the product is right. And then he kind of hit on something and it landed really well with people. And just to give you context of the 12 months I've been there, you were banding in your LMS, the banding was up to 500. We anticipated we wouldn't hit 500 for 2 years. We're now having to go to our next band because we've gone over 500. The amount of meals that we produce a week has gone from 100,000 to 200,000 in the 12 months that I've been there. So we're in this kind of massive hyper growth trajectory period that George, setting up this business 8 years ago with his mum, he must have to stop and pinch himself. He's got all these people he's responsible for. He's selling all these wonderful meals that everybody responds really well to and everybody finds really delicious. And they're good for you. Yeah. And they taste nice.
And also, I love the fact that this is, a plumber who's gone to Ibiza and had this epiphany. I sometimes think the best things come out of naivety isn't the right word, but if you were someone from it was like private equity backed, and you were a chef and they asked you to go off and do this, I think there'd be a rule book or a playbook that you would try to follow. Probably the way that George did it and his mum, it was just coming from a very common sense point of view as to what do people want. It sounds like they were pretty quick to like pivot when they saw that there was more of a mass market for just the average person that wants to eat well.
And I think when they first started, they had like a WhatsApp group of all the customers.
Yeah.
And they would give them live feedback of, I think actually this recipe doesn't go well, this recipe works. And it's nice to get immediate, isn't it? Immediate feedback. So you are iterating and making sure the product is right. Yeah. And hats off to Karen, giving him a life savings. My parents wouldn't do that. Yeah. And look where he's done, with that investment. So he must have had some entrepreneurial spirit to be able to build this business into what it is today. And the thing I from a very personal level, what I really enjoy is I have complete freedom to do what I know what to do professionally, and that in a lot of businesses isn't standard behavior. You bring people in as a specialist, and then because you might not know what they're doing, you tend to micromanage them a little bit, or worry that they're not being able to do the thing, and that ruins creativity. Yeah. Whereas, look at what we've achieved in this business in this short period of time, that, because everyone works as a team and they have the freedom to do the job that they're
hired to do, yeah.
It allows everybody to thrive, or thrive.
To thrive. So whether it was George or I don't know who made the decision, but how did they understand the necessity for someone like you to come in and do the strategic L&D bit? Because I feel like that could come quite late on for a lot of organisations. It seems like they came to that relatively early.
Well, I think George is because he's done that vocational plumbing experience. He does actually get the need to be able to support and develop people along the way, and I think up until the point of them deciding to have an L&D specialist area. And to be honest with you, when I started, they knew they needed L&D. Yes, they knew they needed some kind of function, but it wasn't clear what that function was. Yeah. So my role had 3 different names when I first started. And it was me going in and saying, right, this is what I think you need as a business from my professional experience doing food manufacturing and management leadership development before. I think this is what we can achieve, and here are the stages in which we can achieve it. That I think that also gave a bit of confidence for him that this was the right decision that we've done. He can do what he's saying he's doing, and the proof in the pudding, we've delivered it. So I think there was a realization that to get from where we are now to where we need to be in 12 months' time, we need to standardize. We need to, not make it more corporate, not make it less personal. Yeah. But, if we want to get from 200,000 to 1 million meals a week, we need to be able to make sure that if I'm managing a team, instead of 15, I'm managing a team of 250, I need to make sure that every single person on that line fully understands why they're doing it and what the output of this business is and how it's going to support it. So I really appreciate that he did it at that moment in time. Yeah. Because it was the right time. I think before that probably wouldn't have been the right head to have an LD person in. But I think he pivoted at exactly the right time to have LD in there. And that's a testament to him as a leader, that he can see that there's a gap here and he needs to fill it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
And trust to let them come in, have the space to figure it out. Yeah. So that was 2 years ago. Last year. Wow, yeah. A lot has happened in a year. Wow.
So it will be, we're recording this at the end of November, but in 2 weeks it will be a year. So we've achieved a lot in a short space of time, and I'm tired.
Yeah. Are you ready for your Christmas break?
I'm ready for my afternoon.
So I obviously know about the digital side that you've brought in, but what have been the core, when you came in, you kind of did your audit, you took a step back. Yeah. What were the kind of 3 or 4 things that you like, we need to get this, and this to have this function working well?
So I think the core essentials is kind of what I focused on initially. And core essentials isn't just the standard operating procedures, the inductions, the technical training. It's also the core essentials for our managers. And I quote this report a lot, but at the CMI, Chartered Management Institute 2 years ago, they released a report that stated that 82% of managers in the UK have never been trained as a manager.
Yeah,
So
I can believe it. I've worked in big organisations, and it tends to be that thing of you're good in your role, we'll move you into a management role, and just everyone knows that very rarely works.
Yes, it never works, and it's called the management escalator, and it's a bit too steep for some people to because they can't delegate, they can't let things go.
Different skill set.
100%. So it's really difficult going from that. You spent 20 years building this thing over here that you're a specialist on now. You're being thrown in as a manager over there. So it was kind of 3-tiered. So putting a strategy in as to how we're going to get from where we are now to where we need to be once we start growing hyper growth again in the next couple of years. How are we going to get there? What are the steps in order for us to get to that point? So I've introduced and Jack, who works on my shout, Jack, he is amazing. He just 5 minutes with your platform and he's just run off with it and is just wonderful. But we've got what's known as our bronze, silver, gold training, and we are going through our core essentials of that bronze training at the moment, making sure that everybody, whether they've been trained on it or not, we're just making sure that people understand why they're doing what they're doing, because at the end of the day, everything we do is to get food out of the door, safe, on time, in full, delicious meal.
That's the common.
That's it.
It doesn't matter what role you are. That's the common thing we're all trying to do.
And because of that, we need to make sure that those people producing it know what they're doing right. And we do. This is just standardizing it ready for that growth period. And then we've got silver, where it's kind of following Pareto's principle, that 80-20 rule. So the beginning bit is that 20% of the processes that create 80% of the work, and then the silver is the 80% of the processes that create only 20% of the work, so all the exceptions. And then the gold is like 12 months after that, which is our high potentials, those people who are our next managers and leaders. So while we're doing all that, implementing a learning management system, putting in all this stuff, becoming members of the National Skills Academy Association for Food and Drink, I also created a management leadership program for our supervisors and coordinators on those kind of core bits of management that people find really difficult. Leadership fundamentals, how to have a difficult conversation, how to mentor, coach, how to build teams, and how to performance manage. So we're doing that at the moment because we now have a new structure in place with our management teams where we have a lot more supervisors. And I want to make sure that these supervisors understand exactly how they can support their teams. Because it's pointless me bookending the training. We'll make sure this group of people get the training, we'll make sure this group of the training, but the squeezed management middle, as they're called, never really get any training. So this is a multi-tiered process where, if we're training this person how to use this piece of equipment, as a manager, I also want to be able to have a difficult conversation with them if they're not following that process they've just been trained on. So it's giving the confidence to this group of people that they know what they're talking about. And we had a really interesting first couple of sessions a couple of weeks ago, where we did some of the profiling and we did some of the insight stuff, and it was interesting to see that they went away immediately with those colours. Started talking about how they're going to interact with people who they see as a blue or green or yellow or red.
We had this with our team, and then again that kind of middle management level, and everyone just loves that colour. Be like, oh, you're a red, so I'm going to be. I knew you were a blue. It really just resonates with people pretty quickly, I think.
I love it. I love it because it's really simple. I like Myers-Briggs, but I'm an INFT, INFJ, okay. Whereas this is like, I lead on red and yellow, and you lead on blue and green. So let's try and find a way we can communicate with each other more effectively. And it was nice because they were all taking that away with them. And then, I saw immediately some of the things that were happening. So I went into one of the offices that I work in and walked outside, and they were having a team meeting. And this guy had been on the train and was using situational leadership, and he was talking, and he was going through all these colours. And I was just like, I'm really impressed. And so I spoke to him later in the afternoon and said, I'm really impressed you did that today. Well done. Give him some instant feedback. I said, how did you find it worked? He said, well, I'm communicating more, so people are communicating more with me, and it feels like there's less tension. I was like, yeah. I was like, the root cause of nearly every single problem in any relationship, workplace, is always communication.
Yeah.
That is, if that's the thing we could fix, we'd have a lot less problems in businesses.
Absolutely. I think as well, you can have processes written down beautifully, you know, diagrams around it. People know who's responsible for what, and then it just falls down if the comms out there. Quite often as a marketing director, I like to think that my communications are good, and quite often it's a case of, let's get you and you in a room. You all know what it is, you all know what the process is, but let's actually just make sure that, like, as we are now, we can see each other's body language, we can communicate it, and then we can walk out, and I'm super confident that everyone's taken it on and understood it. Yes, I think communication's like the number one.
And it's a constant process as well. And I think maybe that's where I have a competitive edge through communication in radio. Yeah. And that's why I'm able to be quite so successful, in the fact that I feel I'm quite effective at communicating. I mean, you can tell me afterwards if I am or not, but I feel like communication is one of the key things that I actually don't struggle with. And I try to be as laconic as possible with my communication style. Least words, biggest impact. You know, some people find that a bit direct, but I don't need waffle. I don't need backstory. I don't need. That's fine. All I need to know is, this isn't working. Why is it not working? Let's fix it. Maybe that's my red energy.
No, your colour's coming out.
But I find that it's communication and saying thank you to people, but an honest thank you, not a contrived management thank you. Actually being genuine. And I think people can sense when you're not being genuine. And I try to be genuine wherever possible. And again, you know, going back to the freedom that George has allowed me, and my line manager of Gavin, who's our chief people officer, is I have genuine relationships with these people, and we have genuine feedback, whether that's difficult or otherwise, that they trust me to do what I'm doing. Because I've been nothing but genuine with the communication. If it's not working, I can't do it. I've not done my job. I'll be open. There's no point lying.
And I think when you've got that level of open communication and trust, and you're all coming from a point of view and knowing, like, the intent's good, the respect's there, it makes those harder conversations so much easier. You can kind of call it out and know that it's being done from the right perspective, without people not career restricting, or now they're going to have a chip on the shoulder against. You can just do it, hash it out, move on to the next. So, and is that something that you were doing then with this manager leadership program? These were the type of skills that they were really gaining.
Yeah. So, you know, we did one session in our Canary Wharf offices a couple of weeks ago, and it was a whole group of new supervisors and coordinators, and I said, look, the thing you need to do is communicate. I was like, that's really it. You know, and when we did a reflective bit at the end, one of the guys said, you know, I think we need to communicate more, you know, we need to go away and do that. And I said, right, well, why are you not doing it now? And he looked really blankly at me, and I said, there isn't going to be some management edict from above to say communicate. Well, just communicate. I was like, it's really straightforward. And you could see, like, all the pennies dropping in the room, with everybody thinking, actually, yeah, we do probably need to communicate a bit more. And I've seen that people are, you know, instead of going to that blame, why did you do this? Because you've done this, it's impacted us over here. Instead of, you've done that because you don't know what you're doing, or you've done that because you're not very good. Well, if they're not very good, it's our responsibility as managers to make sure they know how they're doing their job. You know, the chief people officer at Ocado, Claire, years ago, we were delivering some training, and we had somebody in there who was being a bit challenging in training. She stopped the training and she said, let's always assume that everybody has the best intentions. And I really love that. That stayed with me. That's why I say to everybody in the training that I deliver is, let's not assume that anybody's doing a bad thing deliberately. Let's assume everybody has the best intention. And you could see the difference in people. They stood a little bit taller.
There's trust as well there in what.
And you could see that they clearly wanted this training, and they'd been asking for this development for a long time. That when it came, there were a few people I thought might be detractors who actually completely shocked me, because they were really open, engaging, had some reflective moments, came and had a conversation with me afterwards, that actually my perception of them made me then reflect on, well, actually, I've just told you all this and I've just done the same thing. So bad habits sometimes to come out.
And then so the other thing, big project was bringing in the learning platform, the digital learning platform.
Yes.
So what role does that play? And then where do you see, is that kind of the, you said like the 80-20 in terms of how you and Frive deliver learning at scale? What does that look like from in-person versus digital?
So so the learning system itself is multifaceted, and there are 600 courses in there, and another are because I put them all in myself.
Yeah, that's a lot of courses. Yeah.
Sitting in lounges, sitting on trains, uploading all these scone packages. But it's split into, so we took out a membership for micro learning with I Am Learning, who I know you're a retailer for. And they had some really wonderful micro learning. So that's that new level of people, as supervisors, people who are new into the business.
Yeah.
We have that as well. Then I found some really amazing government courses online, which is maths and English literacy and what's the other thing? British values, because we have a lot of people who've literally arrived in the UK and then want to come and work for us because it's kind of an entry level job. Can I just wait this? Yeah. Sorry, it keeps.
We've got microphone clip issues, so no, just move it wherever.
Rubbing against my items. So I'll start that one again. So with the learning management system itself, like I said, there are 600 courses in there. I put them all in myself, scone packages, but they're I Am Learning, so we have all that micro 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute training. So that gives people that's kind of teasing them with the training, as it were. So we had all these government courses and I Am Learning, and then we became members of the National Skills Academy for Food and Drink. And with the NSAFD, part of that membership is we gain 6 core essential courses for our teams, which are quite expensive to bring in externally, and that is allergen awareness, food safety level 2, health and safety level 2, HACCP level 2, level 3, and food safety level 3. So we know that organisation themselves is what used to be called the Sector Skills Council, but they are the national body for food and drink manufacturing training. So I know if I'm getting a allergen awareness course or a food safety or a health and safety course from the National Association, that is an accredited piece of training. Yeah. So we know that everybody who's completed those courses, and a lot of people have already done all these courses, and that's fine. But for my own peace of mind, getting all these core essentials courses in there for people to complete was essential for if a government organisation or an auditor or an investor comes in and goes, right, I want to see everybody's training record. I am not trying to go through 3,000 pieces of paper.
Manually look.
I can click on your system and go, here's the report. It can print certificates. Here are the certificates for everybody as well. Here's who that accreditation is with. So if somebody walks in from the British Retail Consortium, BRCGS, or SALSA, or these other auditing companies that check food manufacturing, they can walk in and I have the information for them straight away, which is really good for the business because they don't need me to be there. Whereas before, when an auditor walks in, I would be sat in a room for 6 to 8 hours with an auditor. Right, this person's on shift today. Get me their training.
Everything's in your head, and
whereas this way, it gives me the peace of mind. It gives them the peace of mind that it's industry leading training. We have all this other stuff to support people, and then we have all this management and leadership training, which is being added into the platform. That if you even just want to dip into that platform, it has everything in there for you. And the homepage itself triages people to whatever is happening that month, whether it's, we have a lot of people from South Asia, so we're celebrating South Asian History Month. It's Black History Month last month, so we did some stuff on Black History Month. So
it's become a bit of a hub, is it fair to say, for outside of learning predominantly, and you kind of CPD, but then there's also this element of a bit of the cultural aspects, it sounds like, as an organisation.
Yeah, and that, and I like to make it so that training feels accidental.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse when you work in a business and, you know, you get your GDPR training, you have to complete your GDPR training, and then when you've done that, you've got 3 months to do your cybersecurity training, and then you've done that, and then you breach, you know, GDPR, and then
go back and do it.
That I wanted it to be digestible in a way that it doesn't feel like training when you train. You're just tracking your interest in something in the platform, because I don't want it to feel like, you know, you have to go here for training, you have to go there for your bank details, you have to go here for your holidays. You know, I wanted it to be, like you said, that kind of more social space for people to go and share bits of training with each other and have it, you know, I've listened to this podcast. We have workspaces where people can share podcasts or videos or YouTube, you know, all this good stuff that I don't want it to feel like, oh, I need to go there because that's where I have to do all my training.
Tick box.
Yeah. And that's the feedback you always get as a training manager is it's always about tick box. You know, how can we stop it feeling like a tick box? And that's, you know, that's kind of why your platform was chosen over the other platforms, because it, you know, I've used platforms before where it's more social and less interactive. But have ones where it's less interactive and both social and, you know, all that good stuff. Whereas with this platform, it's locked enough that I know people aren't going to break it, but it's open enough that people can share and do stuff and feel like they have a bit of freedom in there, which is quite nice.
And then the blend between how much learning gets done digitally and then how much gets done in person. I'm always really interested in where that tipping point ends up being, because it's really different depending on who we speak to and what industry they're in.
I mean, it depends what business you're in. So in this business, time is money. And, you know, you as an L&D function, you have to be very commercial in your mindset. I can't just say, I want you to release people for 4 hours for this training on this particular topic, because they'll say, well, we lose this amount of money by these foods not getting off the line, and this is how much we're going to. So we have, and I don't want to sound too much like the managers get face-to-face and hourly paid and operatives get online. It's not quite like that. Everybody gets an initial induction. Everybody comes in and has face-to-face training with me for their first day. Background of the business, here's a meal, try it, you'll love it.
Yeah, a bit of kind of immersion into the...
Yeah, because there's nothing worse when you start a business and you just hand in a laptop and you're like, good luck, off you go. You're like, I want to know the context. I want to understand where my job fits in with those. What's the freedom? What systems can I use? So then every 3 months, we're doing the bronze training, which is face-to-face. So the way that Jack has created that platform is he does a show and tell face-to-face. Then he takes them in a room and gets all their phones and laptops and stuff out. And then they do an online reading of the standard operating procedure, going through the video itself. And then he has this test at the end and a confirmation of competency. So the stuff that they digest themselves is online. The initial course is face-to-face. And then after that, everything is a bit blended.
Yeah.
To answer your model.
Yeah, no, but that's, I think, like the balance sounds pretty much spot on, as much as it can be. There definitely are some people that we speak to where the online side of it is just absolutely becoming all, but I think where you still can retain that blended aspect, it's beneficial to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, my personal inclination, I think, as a millennial, is to do most things online with a bit of face-to-face. I think it all depends on the senior leaders within a business and where they are on it. Is what I tend to find is I find that there is a real age gap dependent on where the training should take place.
Yeah.
So those boomers above, love face-to-face. All this face-to-face, all the certificate, room. Love it. Yeah, we'll get some flip charts, we'll get post-it notes, we'll do a role play. Yeah. Those people at my age are like, well, we'll kind of do a bit of that, but then we'll support that with a bit of online. Whereas at the moment, everyone else who's Gen Z are touching a phone all the time, or a laptop or a tablet or something like that. So trying to get these people engaged in a classroom in a way that isn't conducive to how they learn at school anyway anymore. They have whiteboards, it's all interactive. and we're wheeling out an overhead projector
Yeah, get your sticky notes.
with the PowerPoint presentation. I don't think it's going to get the best out of that group of people. So we try and make it as immersive as possible, because then you're catering to those adult learning styles. You're catering to, the neurospices, my sister calls, and people who've got neurodiversity on the spectrum, that actually that really helps bring everybody in and allows everybody to have an opportunity to be engaged in that process. Because there's nothing worse than, I've decided this is one size fits all for everyone.
Yeah.
I find that really difficult, because then you've lost half the room.
Yeah.
The majority of people who work operative, hourly paid, are not people who've excelled in school. So why would I sit them in a classroom for 6 hours?
Yeah, in that kind of lecture environment.
I mean, I love the sound of my own voice, as was mentioned before.
No, but what do you see the future being, I guess specifically at Frive for learning, but then maybe just a comment on more broadly, where do you see your sector going?
I think, to your point, everything's going to be online. Everything is going to be online. And I think what I'd really like to see is more immersive experiences. So, but they're very expensive and margins are very thin in the kind of business that I'm in. It would be nice if, when people are doing their induction, we could chuck on a virtual headset and say, this is a line you're going to be working on. They can see it work, and they can actually see what it looks like and actually immerse themselves in that. That's what I'd really like, is more of a joined up approach with businesses working together, because everybody has a pot of money and everybody's doing the same thing. So can we not pool a bit more? Why can we not do that? But I think it's all going to go online, all of it. And I just hope that I'm not being replaced by AI.
I think that's what we're all hoping. I feel like we're like, I'm speaking for myself, but at the minute, it's certainly in marketing, like, it's so helpful.
Training as well.
Yeah, in like any sector, I would imagine. But then there's also that little thing in your head, like, am I just feeding the beast that eventually is gonna take over, I guess. But
somebody said to me a few years ago, it is not AI that's going to take your job, it's a person who's using AI properly who's going to take your job.
Yeah.
So let's use it properly.
Let's use it properly. It does reframe, though, what you like. I don't just want to end up being a really good AI prompter.
Yeah.
I still want to be like a creative marketer, but yeah, that's a whole other. We could go on for like an hour on that one.
I mean, I do like using it to check if because I write with a Yorkshire accent, so I want to make sure that it makes sense in English.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to have too many
Yorkshireisms. Yeah. Right. We're gonna finish because we could definitely talk all day, and we're getting the little wrap up signs. So 3 quick fire questions.
Okay.
Don't overthink them. Go with your gut.
Okay.
The first one is, being from this area in Yorkshire, where would you say is your favourite hidden gem?
Malham Cove. It's my go-to place. It's beautiful. There's no phone signal, and you can get lost.
Yeah, would you say it's a happy place for you?
Yes, I love Malham Cove.
Yeah,
when it's not raining, which is very unusual, but it's beautiful.
It's a great shout. Was it in Harry Potter, or have I made that up?
I don't know.
The book, audiobook, or film, or I'll give you radio based on your background, that you think you've learned the most from?
I read a book a few years ago called An Abbreviated Life by Ariel Lev, and she used to write for The Guardian, and she wrote a piece during Donald Trump's first presidential term, and it's about gaslighting. And it made me open my eyes as to what gaslighting that actually is and how I'd experienced it a lot through life, and helped me to grow and change. Amazing book. Yeah. An Abbreviated Life.
I'll
change my life.
Wow. And then lastly, a person in your life who you feel you've learnt the most from?
Oh wow, okay. Can I only have one?
If a few come to mind, then go for it. But
so I have a who have I learned the most from? I think probably my mentor Migs from Ocado. he allowed me when I first worked for him, he said, "You're the specialist in training. I'm the specialist in engineering. Don't pretend you know about engineering now. I won't pretend I know about training."
Yeah.
And that immediately set that trust piece.
Set the tone.
Set the tone, allowed me to go off and do my thing. You know, when I was going down the wrong thing, he would stop me. But he was one of the best communicators and allowed me to do my job, which I really appreciated. So as a manager, you know, he was probably one of the best managers I've ever had. And I learned a lot from him on how to be a compassionate leader myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you get someone like that in your career, because not everyone does, it's a lucky thing to have, but then you value it so much as you continue in your career, and then hopefully you pass that down and you see stuff that you're doing that you kind of got from that relationship.
100%. And I try and, you know, we all fail miserably all the time. Depends how tired we are or whatever's going on at home. But I try to be authentic and genuine and truthful. And whether that comes out as being sassy or not, I don't know. But
Cool if it does.
You know, you will never get a lie from me, which I would like to say is one of my core values.
Yeah. Well, I've loved speaking to you today, and you really, you're back in your hometown. You absolutely do come across very genuine, authentic, brilliant communicator.
Thank you.
So thank you for being on the Learn with Purpose podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
I appreciate it.